Yo, what's going on, guys? And today we'll be talking about a report coming from Gary Wolf. Shout out a guy who I've been reading for a long time. He writes for Lindy's Pro Basketball magazine, and he's the editor of the Wolf Press Box. He's a award-winning journalist. Now, Gary's a longtime Milwaukee guy, and he tweeted out, "I've been told by multiple sources the Bucks are taking steps in the event of Giannis Antetokounmpo moving on. One of those steps is bringing in some projected top 8 draft prospects to Milwaukee before June 25th, 26th NBA draft. The Bucks, as of now, don't even have a first-round pick in this year's draft." I actually was talking to Gary, met him last week at the Combine, real nice guy, and we really spoke of this whole situation. We bonded over Jabari Parker, and we've been talking about this on this channel. So before we continue, what is your thoughts? What is your expectation with Giannis Antetokounmpo, especially with Damian Lillard being injured for the rest of the forthcoming future and probably all next year? And let's get right into it. Like and subscribe will be greatly appreciated by the channel. The Bucks are reportedly hosting workouts for top 8 draft prospects ahead of this year's draft. The twist? They don't currently own a first-round pick this year. It's akin to window shopping for a luxury car when your bank account says maybe a used bicycle. This move suggests the Bucks are preparing for a future potentially without Giannis Antetokounmpo after another early playoff exit, with the aforementioned Damian Lillard popping his Achilles. Now has trade rumors swirling around the team. The team might explore options to rebuild or retool their roster. Bringing in top prospects could be a strategy to evaluate talent they might acquire through trades or with a draft pick in this year's draft. Currently, the Bucks' first-round pick is owed to the Brooklyn Nets, leaving them without a selection in the top round. However, they do possess a second-round pick from Detroit that is projected to be the 47th overall. Sorry about that, got a call. The Bucks are essentially preparing for all scenarios by evaluating top draft prospects and talent. They're keeping their options open, whether they mean to make a trade to make this roster better, to keep Giannis, or to acquire picks, preparing for a potential rebuild. They might just be simply doing their due diligence. It's strategic, as the move may seem like shopping without a wallet. Whether the NBA draft comes and goes without a selection and Giannis's future remains uncertain could be a possibility. However, I think the Bucks' next moves will tell us what happens. Whether they find a way to secure a top pick, aka the second pick from the Spurs, or make significant roster changes, I think we'll find out in the coming weeks what pivotal moves will happen for this franchise. The rest of the video will be discussing what we previously reported.
Yo, what's going on, guys? And we recorded this video earlier talking about Giannis and the trade situation, but then this report came out from Jake Fisher, because originally the report that we discussed had come from Brian Windhorst or someone else in ESPN. It was from one of those talking heads, the pundits. But today, I want to hear your thoughts. Jake Fisher of the Stein Line says the Bucks are expected to try to regain their own draft capital from the New Orleans Pelicans Blazers if Giannis Antetokounmpo is traded. Let me hear your thoughts down below. Like, comment, subscribe. It will help out the channel. What does this mean? Well, we've discussed that the thought is you won't do a true rebuild, if you don't have your picks, so that they would be more incentivized to find a deal that allows them to stay at least neutral, playoff, somewhat worthy. But because the Milwaukee Bucks owe future first-round picks to the New Orleans Pelicans and the Portland Trail Blazers, there is growing anticipation that there is going to be an attempt to include either one of those teams or both of them in a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade to regain some of their draft capital. The Pelicans control Milwaukee's first-round picks in 2025, 2026, and 2027 due to the Drew Holiday trade of 2020 that obviously landed them a championship. While the Blazers control their picks in 2028, 2029, and 2030 because of the Damian Lillard trade in 2023. Brooklyn Nets similarly reacquired control of their first-round picks in 2025 and 2026 from the Houston Rockets as they separately traded Mikal Bridges to the New York Knicks to fully embrace a rebuild. As of this week, we talked about Spurs, Houston, all the rumored teams, but ESPN reported that Giannis Antetokounmpo is meeting with the Milwaukee Bucks front office to discuss his career, as he is actually open-minded about a future away from the Bucks for the first time in his career. There has yet to be any public known resolution on whether Antetokounmpo will request a trade or decide he prefers to remain with the Bucks. That's to be, I guess, determined at their meeting some point in this coming week. And I think the biggest thing is people need to understand is I think there is a belief that they can put it together, and I don't believe that. I think if I'm Milwaukee and you can get your future back, you want a championship, I would sell high. It's cooked, guys. It might be cooked. I want to hear your thoughts, and the rest of the video is what we discussed earlier, and it's really more talking about how the Spurs do have,
Yo, what's going on, guys? And I just got back from the NBA draft combine. Was able to watch the G League Elite camp, talk to some people, meet up with old colleagues, and of course, hear the rumors. And this is always a great time for me, as it allows me to get some insight on what's going to be reported and what's going to happen. Now, first and foremost, from what I understand, we all know this. Houston and San Antonio had the most, I guess, realistic Godfather offers, if you want to put it like that. Like, I know people are going to be like, well, the OKC Thunder could come in and take any deal out of the water. Yeah, but OKC has J-Dub and Chad. So if they were going to go after Giannis, they would have to part with that, and they're not going to do that, okay? So what we're going to talk about here today is Houston's also continuing to star hunt in the background, but really put face that they're going to stick with the young core. But they have a bunch of assets. We're going to talk about San Antonio, who says they're likely going to take Dylan Harper, who you guys know that I think might be the guy with the highest ceiling, secretly. Like, Cooper Flag's a ridiculous player, and he's incredible. He can be an all-star. But Dylan Harper can be like the left-handed Cade Cunningham. This is a guy that like grew up working out with like Jalen Brunson and stuff. So let's read today's report. And the initial is that the Spurs are likely to keep the number 2 pick to select Dylan Harper. But we all know that, and I have some people who know that like Jeremy Sohan wouldn't mind going to Milwaukee if he's going to get an extension there. And I understand that the deal more than likely would be Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan, Dylan Harper, or AKA the number 2 pick, and whatever filler for Giannis Antetokounmpo. And that would create the greatest front court in NBA history. Giannis and Wemby would be ridiculous. So the Spurs allegedly, Brian Windhorst is reporting, could transform the possibility of Giannis Antetokounmpo's trade destination as the go-to one. They have the assets in terms of a surplus of future draft capital. They have the number 2 pick because Milwaukee doesn't control their draft future. So getting a guy like Dylan Harper allows you to not only get like a franchise cornerstone, but also not have to fully tank because you already got the guy. So now you can just retool around him. And Harper is the consensus 2nd pick of the draft, regardless of who has the pick. And people are like, well, the positional overlap of Fox, Castle, and Harper. Harper can play the 1 or the 2, and he's better than Castle. I hate to break it to all the Castle stands. So with that being said, I think we would look at this and think that do the Spurs look to go all in? As Brian Wright told my colleague, Michael Scotto, that they were planning to go big fish hunting by year 3. So is this actually what they're going to do? Because I think it does open up a bunch of worms. So I want to hear your thoughts before we continue.
I won't have this video go much longer because the whole rebuttlement is Giannis has yet to ask out. And the Bucks could very well try to do something. I think it's unlikely. I think they're in a juxtaposition, and part of the reason why they extended John Horst is they rather have him see through the exit of Giannis. So if they do have to get a new regime, the new regime is not the ones who got rid of Giannis, but have to solve what John Horst had to do. Kind of like how NBA office politics work, but yeah, this won't happen unless like the Bucks get a god offer or Giannis asks out. So let me hear your thoughts.